What's been the most difficult car to rebuild?
The P1 for sure. If it were a 100% OEM rebuild, like I was just getting every factory part and all that, it definitely would have been done by now.
In September 2022, Hurricane Ian hit Florida and left behind one image that broke the internet for car people: a volcano yellow McLaren P1, one of only 375 ever built, sitting on top of a toilet in the middle of a flooded street. The storm pushed it out of the garage, and somehow it landed on a toilet that got swept out of a nearby house. Nobody could have staged that. If you know what a P1 is, the photo hit even harder. This was McLaren's hypercar, built to go toe-to-toe with the Ferrari LaFerrari and Porsche 918, sold out on arrival, and worth well over $1 million, sitting on a toilet after a hurricane. A few weeks later, it showed up at Copart. Tavarish bought it for $575,000, and the whole thing went on YouTube. Whether that price made sense is something people are still arguing about. The rebuild started pretty straightforwardly, then slowly got out of hand. The hybrid system got pulled out, the power target went past 1,400 horsepower, Frank Stephenson, the guy who actually designed the original P1, got brought in, and at some point, the goal stopped being fix the flood car and became build the fastest McLaren ever made. The plan now is a top-speed run at the Space Shuttle landing strip in Cape Canaveral, chasing 260 miles per hour and trying to beat the McLaren Speedtail's 250 miles per hour benchmark.
The fastest McLaren right now is a Speedtail, so it does 250. I think with the gearing and everything, we can do 260, 270. Realistically, I don't know.
Heading into 2026, it's still not done, the timeline has slipped, and the project keeps getting bigger. Somehow, that's exactly why people are still watching. The P1 had already been internet famous before the storm even hit. The owner had been posting it on Instagram right before Hurricane Ian made landfall, so when the flood photos started appearing, people already knew the car. Road and Track reported that the water flooded the garage first, then carried the car out into the street, where it was eventually found propped up on a toilet that had also been swept away. That detail alone made the whole thing feel unreal. A few weeks later, it showed up at Copart with visible damage in the listing photos, and that's when the story shifted from being a hurricane casualty to a salvage auction mystery. When something like a P1 appears on a salvage site, the conversation stops being about whether it can be saved and starts being about who's actually going to do it. That person was Freddy Hernandez, better known as Tavarish. Motor Trend reported he paid more than $500,000 for it. He uploaded the first video on March 31st, 2023, and the premise was simple enough for anyone to follow: that a well-known YouTuber bought the Hurricane P1 and was going to bring it back. There's also a piece of folklore around the purchase that kept getting repeated. Apparently, Tavarish had joked online that he'd buy the car if a post hit 40,000 likes, and then it actually happened. Whether that was always the plan or genuinely how it went down, it became part of the story. That simple premise, fix the flood car and put it back on the road, is still what a lot of people are waiting to see. It's just not really what the project is anymore. Early on, the appeal was straightforward. What still works, what's completely ruined, and where do you even begin? Motor Trend described the initial condition pretty bluntly, that the car looked intact from the outside, but nothing worked. The wheels and suspension made it nearly impossible to move, and every compartment they opened had standing water and storm debris still sitting in it from months earlier. That part of the project people understood. It was a big, complicated salvage job, but the goal was clear. Then the scope changed. The plan shifted to building a one-off car called the P1 Evo, with a specific target of going over 260 miles per hour, which would mean beating the 250 miles per hour top speed McLaren claims for the Speedtail. Motor Trend framed it as an attempt to build the fastest McLaren ever made, and that's not a small reframe. Getting a flood-damaged P1 running again is already a serious undertaking. Building a one-off hypercar that goes faster than anything McLaren has ever produced is a completely different project. The decisions they've made since are all pointed in that direction. The hybrid battery and drive assembly got pulled out, which shed around 300 pounds and converted it to a pure combustion setup. The engine plan targets over 1,400 horsepower on race fuel. For anyone not deep into cars, the hybrid removal is worth understanding because it's not just about weight. The P1 was designed as one integrated system, and when you start pulling major pieces out, you're not just deleting hardware. You're breaking the logic the car was built around, and everything downstream, the computers, the wiring, the way systems talk to each other, has to be rebuilt around the new plan. Then, Frank Stephenson got involved, which changed the conversation completely. Stephenson designed the original P1 while at McLaren. Top Gear reported that he teamed up with Tavarish to reimagine the car as the P1 Evo, with early designed visuals showing a shark fin, a new roof scoop, and a heavily revised aero package. Having the original designer come back to reshape the car he created is the kind of detail that makes people take the whole thing more seriously. It also raised the stakes considerably. Once Stephenson is attached and the bodywork is being redesigned from scratch, the project moves from salvage, built into something closer to a small independent hypercar program. And those don't move fast, because you can't rush parts that don't exist yet. Even if you never watched a single P1 episode, one thing that swung public perception hard was the garage tours. In February 2026, Daily Driven Exotics posted a video checking in on the P1 project, and the framing alone said a lot.
This started out as I'm just rebuilding a flood car. On its own, already really hard. Every day I do something on this car. I've gotten a lot of people saying, oh, you forgot about this project or you given up or whatever. It's like, this stuff takes a long time.
It wasn't an update from Tavarish showing progress. It was another channel showing up to see what was actually going on. That same week, DD also posted a full tour of Tavarish's supercar collection, valued at over $8 million. And seeing both videos together is what crystallized the concern for a lot of people. This isn't one project moving slowly. It's several massive projects all existing at the same time, all competing for the same time, money, and attention. That's when the conversation stopped being purely about whether the P1 could be fixed and started being about whether it would ever actually get finished. Reddit had been split on this since the beginning. When the early videos dropped in 2023, the reactions were pretty much what you'd expect. Some people thought it was one of the coolest things on YouTube, others were convinced it would never make financial sense, and most landed somewhere in the middle. There's also a layer to this that's specific to doing something like this on YouTube. The build isn't happening behind closed doors. Every delay, every scope change, and every ambitious new target gets absorbed by an audience that has opinions about all of it. Road and Track noted back in 2022 that the comment section around the original Hurricane photos was already divided between people feeling bad for the owner and people asking why he didn't move the car before the storm hit. That energy never really went away, it just found new things to attach to as the project evolved. As the build got more extreme, the questions got more specific. Some people online have raised whether a car with this kind of damage history can even be road registered, or whether it ends up as a track-only car. Those conversations live mostly in forums and haven't been addressed directly in any major coverage, but they add to the feeling that this project doesn't have one obvious ending. It has several possible ones, and nobody knows yet which way it lands. Where things actually stand is clear at this point. The P1 is not being restored to factory condition. It's being turned into a one-off car built for one specific purpose, going faster than any McLaren ever has. Motor Trend laid out the plan in detail. Pull the hybrid system, build a pure combustion car with extreme power, fit it with a redesigned long-tail aero package, and take it to the Space Shuttle landing strip at Kennedy Space Center for a top-speed run. Ben Collins, a former Stig, is mentioned as the driver. The target is 260 miles per hour, and the runway itself is 15,000 feet long and 300 feet wide, managed by Space Florida. It is one of the longest strips of asphalt you can realistically access in the US. The destination is not vague. The timing is where it gets complicated. Motor Trend had reported a tentative completion date of November 2025, but the DDE garage visit in February 2026, the car was still unfinished, and the video wasn't framed as a progress update. It was framed as a check-in to see what was actually going on. The timeline has slipped, and the audience noticed without anyone having to say it out loud. What still needs to happen breaks down into some pretty obvious stages. First, the engine needs to run reliably, and the electronics need to behave, which sounds basic, but is genuinely the hardest part of a build like this. Modern hypercars are designed as integrated systems, and when you've pulled out major components and rebuilt around a different plan, getting everything to communicate properly again is where projects stall. That's why so much of the online commentary obsesses over wiring and modules. It's not glamorous, but it's the part that determines whether the whole thing is real. After that, the car needs to actually be drivable, which is a separate challenge from just getting it started. A car can fire up and still be nowhere near ready to put miles on. Getting it to roll, steer, stop, and behave consistently is its own phase. And on a build this complex, it involves a long series of smaller wins before it resembles something you'd actually take out on a road or track. Then, the P1 Evo identity has to become physical. Most of what the public has seen so far is designs and renders, the long-tail bodywork, the shark fin, the new roof scoop, the revised aero elements that Stephenson brought into the project. Once those have to become actual parts that fit the car and hold up its speed, that's where one-off hypercar ambitions get brutally expensive fast. Custom work at this level takes months, and even the most supportive corners of the internet have been noting that for a while. Then comes the run itself, which is the clearest ending the project has been building toward. A high-speed pass at the shuttle landing facility, going past 260 miles per hour with a former Stig behind the wheel, in a car that started as flood wreckage sitting on a toilet in a Florida street. That's where Tavarish is heading. Not a restored P1 sitting in a garage looking exactly as it left the factory, but a one-of-one car that exists to make a specific point, that a hypercar written off as hurricane scrap can come back as something McLaren never built, going faster than anything McLaren ever made. Whether that happens this year or takes considerably longer, the direction has been set for a while now. The story doesn't end with the car getting fixed. It ends with the car getting proven. Tuna No Crust, signing off.